Hi, everybody. It's Richard, the founder of Conscious Marketer, and I am joined by Kylie. Hi, Kylie.
Hello.
And welcome to this episode of the Conscious Marketer podcast. And these solo episodes, we come together to talk about, things that we think will bring you forward to make more impact and income in the market with your own branding and services. And, one of the things that we talk a lot about are offers, and sometimes we have to keep coming back to this, both with the clients we work with and then even our own offers. It's something it's kind of like if you're, whatever you do, it's like one of those fundamental things you go through because people get it they go out there and the hardest thing to market is your own offer because you're so close to it. You can't get the distance. So we're going to talk about offers again this episode, and we may have a few more episodes because it's so important. But specifically, let's take a perspective on offers. And what do you think, Kylie? What should we talk about in terms of offers today?
Well, I believe that a lot of the clients that we work with, from those that are just starting out to those that are even very, very successful in terms of revenue, I think there's always a little bit of tweaking. There's either a total disconnect or there's a little bit of tweaking that needs to happen with what they're selling versus what people actually want to buy.
Right.
And a lot of times when I talk about that, people think what I'm telling them is to sell something that is more marketable. And in doing so, they have to then water down their work or their message. There's an incredible amount of resistance to that. And I wouldn't do it either. So I get it. I think it's just really more about how are you communicating the value to people so that they understand that they need and want it.
Right. I think one of the myths of marketing is that the role of your marketing is actually to create the demand, which is true or false? False. The role of marketing is to find people that already have a pressing need, pain point, problem. They already have that, whether they know about it or not, and then to make those people aware that you have the solution. And so it's kind of a backward thinking. You don't, like, if you go to do a video or go to do a sales page or an email, and in the back of your mind you're like, okay, my role is to convince somebody that they need this. Then you have to kind of rethink that right out of the gate and think, well, what if by chance I took the opposite approach and thought, what do they already need, and how can what I have help them to to solve that problem that they already have? And once you start to take that perspective, then it becomes more like you're helping to present a solution and then helping them to decide, versus you're trying to use some weird marketing tactic to convince them. This is why marketers have a bad name, right? Like, yeah. So I think, so there's something about like really understanding the core problem, the core thing that they're going through. And that requires actually a lot of empathy, because you need to feel what they're feeling in order to actually resonate with the right message to help them really,
Mm. I think that's so true. And it even reminds me of my own way of speaking to people that are listening to me or in my audience or whatever it is. And I have to speak to them differently than I would speak. And I'm not compromising my voice. It's like what you said is I'm having empathy. So I do feel that there's certain words that my clients don't resonate with, and I stopped using them. In fact, one of them was mission. I was so surprised by this.
Really?
Yes. I was like, I felt like someone just like punched me in the gut, because I've been using that word for so long and I believe in that word so much. And I thought everybody's on a mission and that's why they want to tell their stories. And in our Facebook group, the Conscious Marketer's Path, I asked people if they, like, I gave a list of words, what do you resonate with? And all of them were like, I do not resonate with mission. And, and they said it made them feel too like corporate. I know you and I talked about that. They felt that it was too corporate, or they felt that it was like the Navy SEALs, and they didn't like either. And I'm cool with like, I'm down with the Navy SEALs in some regards, but I just, I was like, what should I start using? So I started using vision. I'm like, I wonder if they resonate with vision. I don't know. So if I were to market a course and I were to say, hey, like mission accomplished, you're going to take this and you're going to bring your mission to more people. And this is my mission. And this is why I want to help you. Then I might not be talking to people in the way that they see that it fits into what they need and want. And I have to figure out what that is. And I think for a lot of people listening, the best way to do this, the best place to start is asking your former clients, so long as they're the types of people that you want to continue working with, how they do or do not resonate with certain words or emails that you've written or sales pages, and getting that feedback like straight on.
Yeah, and that's why surveys are so powerful, because they'll, like on entry into our Facebook group or after a course, one of the questions is what's drawing you to take the course? What's drawing you to buy this program or to join this group? Or another great question is, what's your vision? I wouldn't use the word mission now. What's your vision for the future that you'd like to accomplish, or something like that? And they'll share. And then rather than use your words, you can, use the language that they use. And this is for everybody who's putting offers out there. The single greatest mistake that you can make is to focus on the stuff. Like, you get 14 videos and you get private access to this membership site that you're going to have to remember a new login into, or you get 18 bonuses. And so that's called the stuff. And so really what you want to focus on is how your language can lead them to kind of see that they have a problem. Now, I think this is a really interesting thing to talk about. And I think we work with a lot of people in this, because if you're listening to the Conscious Marketer podcast, I don't know what the opposite of the Conscious Marketer podcast would be. But that's a kind of an interesting question. Like what's the evil version of the Conscious Marketer podcast? I don't know. But what I would say is, if you're listening to this, you're kind of in our community. You probably are out there wanting to do good things, running a conscious company, a healer, a therapist, or you're here because you want marketing to be a force for good in the world. And because you're like that, you're probably wired more in the positive polarity. And so the role in marketing isn't so much to bring people into the negative polarity, or to sometimes like the evil version of this podcast, I would be like, okay, when you're on that part of the sales page, then you twist the knife. Like who talks like that? Like literally not anybody that we work with, And so, but I've literally heard that at marketing conferences. And it makes me like squeam in my chair. I'm like, oh my God, like this is not the way you should market to people, especially if you're helping them. So sometimes what I like to say is, so the thing that the blind spot is, you just talk about the positive stuff. And that doesn't really bode well either. So you don't want to go all negative, but you also don't want to go positive, because then people don't understand that we're, as individuals, we're very good at like ignoring and denying the change we need to create the world we want to see. And so you have to bring people into a state of reality of their current situation by describing what they're feeling, or what they're missing out on, or the pain that they could be out of. And so you need to bring people into some realization of the help that they need. Otherwise they'll never make the change. And so I think it's a fine balance, but what I would say, our community tends to lean into the positive things. And this is true. You might want to put how you can overcome something in the subtitle of your program, and in the opening letter, and in the video. And so you need to keep focused on the main core issue that your client is solving, and make sure that the person that's reading knows that that's what this is about. It's about solving and presenting a solution to that. Otherwise, they'll just glide through your page and they won't buy, and they're gonna keep having the bad relationship, or the bad eating habits, or like the intention to meditate every day, but 10 years goes by and they don't ever meditate. or whatever it is you teach, or they want to go into resolve some previous trauma, but they've buried it so far deep and they just hope it doesn't ever come up again. And they just ignore where we're not really serving the evolution of humanity or helping people with the gifts that we have. So I don't know. Do you find that with the people you work with, Kylie? I'm kind of curious because you work with a lot of story, and I'm kind of curious how would you advise somebody on the messaging?
Sure. I want to actually backtrack and say something about the pain first, because I think that that's a aspect of marketing and even story that people get really, really tripped up on, and they get really upset about it. Same with fear. And they only want to work with the aspirational, like you were talking about. And I think it's a balance, both. And for example, like people don't buy a Tesla because they're in pain. They buy a Tesla because they want to feel like they're contributing to the environment, or they want to look cool, or they want to look like I'm successful. So there's that. But as far as pain, this example came to me one day. I've been using it ever since. I think it's a good example. I remember when my mom first found out that her sister had a really serious prognosis with pancreatic cancer. And so that was her best friend. And I could have walked into her house or called her and been like, man, the weather is so good today, and that's agitating the pain. Ignoring the pain is agitating the pain. Not ignoring it is being compassionate. So we're not looking at people's pain and, like you said, twisting the knife. We're looking at it and we're going, hey, I see that. I feel that. How can I help you? Like, how can I help you get out of that or make that feel better? So I wanted to drive that home, just because I feel like this is probably the number one reason that more conscious entrepreneurs, practitioners, marketers don't sell as much as they want to, because there's this avoidance. And that is part of the messaging. I think in terms of your other question, just how do we start to put our message together? I believe in what I've seen and what I've done myself is to take this big, huge energy that's 40 miles long and squeeze it through a two inch tube. And that's really hard for people to do. Again, I'm not asking you to change your message at all. I'm asking you to get really specific about how that message can apply to helping somebody. So if I'm a Reiki master and I want to hold on, I'm going to say that again because I could hear you typing. If I am a Reiki master and I want to get more clients on my table, I'm not going to say, just like Richard called this the stuff, this is also the stuff. I'm not going to say, hey, I do Reiki, want to get a session, because I'm like, I don't understand what that even means. And I do know what Reiki is. I've had sessions, but even still, I'm like, that sounds like a luxury. That sounds intriguing. That sounds interesting. I don't have time. I don't want to pay for it. I don't even know what it's going to do for me. So we want to then talk about how a certain amount of sessions can help with communication in my relationship. You don't want to make claims. So you might know that your work helps people with headaches or back pain, and you can't make that claim, but you could say, usually when people have at least 5 sessions, they notice that there's a great reduction in their lower back pain. Or they notice that their emotions are so cleared out that they're connecting with their kids more, instead of being like, oh, clean your room, So it's like, when we get specific like that, then people go, oh, I want that. So it's not changing what you're selling, it's changing how you talk about it.
Yeah. And I think most people are familiar with the hero's journey story. And part of the hero's journey is you're returning back as a mentor. Mm-hmm. And part of that is that you can tell your own story, Because even me, I was talking to somebody earlier today, and I had, out of school, I was offered a couple of marketing/sales jobs, and at the time I had reluctance to marketing and sales even back then, even though I had a dual degree in finance and marketing, which is kind of funny. And so I decided to go into finance because it seemed like a better route. But I deep inside, I loved marketing and sales and everything about it. But I don't think I was strong enough at the time to overcome there's a lot of negativity toward anybody that sells and markets in our world today. In some cases. So part of my path is to help people that hate marketing right now, or that that hate sales, or they don't like that overlay. So it's like my path has been to figure out ways to show up authentically. So I can feel others' pain about like us being oversold and and constantly bombarded by marketers' emails and videos and retargeted for. My favorite retargeting was a refrigerator from Home Depot. I kept seeing refrigerators on my Facebook feed. It was like it was super funny, I was like, I don't want to be retargeted for a refrigerator by Home Depot, So, but I can share that, and people can laugh about it and go, "Yeah, I hate marketing too." And then we're in a conversation, and then it opens up the door, and it was like, okay, let's work on that, because I've figured some things out through the years. In fact, I've helped all these people, and for example, and then I can give a case story of somebody who maybe was a therapist and they really got into or a naturopath, and it was there to help people, and they had to figure out a way that they want, to build a practice to support their communities, and then we're off, So it's like, I think this intersection of core offer, pain, and story, it's like they just weave. Yeah, they just weave in and out. It's like a beautiful thing, especially if it's done from a place of the soul and your heart and this ability to care for people. Then the word marketing kind of just dissolves into service at that point, and you're just doing your work, and people are finding you and referring you, and then they become the next story, which is super cool, right? Like they become the story. That's what you really want. You want them to go through their own hero's journey and have the transformation, and then they have the story. And often they're not going to come and they're not going to be the therapist, but they'll say, "Hey, I got through this. Go talk to Richard or Kylie or your name," And so it's like they become. What's cool is if you do it right, the referrals you get increase incredibly. And I think it's probably another episode, but it's like, you could do that on a small scale, but it's like, I think with the online world and online programs and membership sites and summits, this kind of like, it's kind of like this mass referral where you become the go-to person in your business is really, really a powerful thing that can impact the world and can, really, you can create a great business around it too.
I love that. And as you're saying that, I reflected on how I kind of did that in my own self, like in terms of the referrals, because I got so many referrals that I've almost never really had to market myself, unless I am selling courses, which we have to tell people about our courses. And that's kind of what I consider marketing myself. But I had this broad body of work that was art more than marketing. And I started to apply it to specific applications, just like I asked, and I don't want to say told you to do, but actually sometimes I like people telling me to do. So yeah, I told you to do it. And I was able to apply that broad abstract body of work to Facebook advertising. And I was able to get really good results repeatedly for a lot of people. And the specific application of that, to drill it down a little deeper, is people want to build their list. They want brand awareness and they want to make money. So I was able to take this passion for storytelling and put it into those really specific frames. Now, I know a lot of people are thinking, "Oh, but that's make money. It's easier to sell." I don't find that to be true at all. We don't really sell anything that's make money except for our own stuff. And so some of our best launches, at least since I've been part of this team, have had very, very little to do with making more money. So if anything at all, but that's just my own path. That's my own experience. That's how I took my art, having no idea how I would ever sell it. accidentally stumbling into a way to sell it and taking that and hitting kind of a home run with it, and then getting those referrals like you're talking about. So specificity. For our students who are in the Conscious Launch Accelerator, they will tell you all day long, if they are on a mentoring call with me, or if I'm looking at their work in the Facebook group, that is pretty much the only thing I ever say. Hey, that's a great email, but be more specific in this section of it. Or that's a great avatar, but be more specific in this aspect of it. Because if I can't see, hear, taste, touch, smell it, I don't feel connected to it. I can't see it. I don't understand it. And so we always want to think, how can we be more specific? And I'll tell you right now, I truly believe this. I actually think for a more empathic type of a person, I actually truly believe that specificity is painful to the brain of that type of person. So it's like doing push-ups, brain push-ups.
Brain push-ups. I like that. Yeah. And I'll just second what Kylie said there. And it's a little counterintuitive that the more narrow you go, the more clients you'll have, because you think, oh, I'm going to narrow it down. And especially online, I think if you're a healer or a therapist and if you could just serve like your local community of 3,000 people or whatever, then you kind of have to be like the jack of all trades or whatever, and be maybe a little bit more general. But as you turn online, what you see is that you'll have things that you do better than anybody else. And what that means is you'll have people that have more specific problems that you can solve more than anybody else. And so often, and then the messaging for that particular person is going to be very different than, a much wider group. And so the more specific you are, you can find all the people like that around, the country, say. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you can create great results for all those people. You have all these case studies, but also like it's not most of the people listening to this podcast aren't just defined by their target market. But then if you live in there are cities that are millions and millions of people or tens of millions of people, depending on where you live in the world. So, even in those markets, being specific can be important, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. So true. Yeah. Well, I just want to take a moment to thank everybody for listening, but also to share about some, ways that they could connect with us more deeply. If you're cool with that, it just kind of popped into my head to do it. So first of all, we have a Facebook group called The Marketer's Path, and we talk about stuff like this in there, and you can connect with us in there. We would love to have you, see your face. Some people listening, we already know what y'all look like. We've already talked to you, but I always like connecting faces to people because you can feel that energy, and then I can help more. And then we also have a course called the Conscious Launch Accelerator, which there's not that many. There's some programs out there that are full scale launching courses, but there aren't any that I've ever seen that are targeted towards the spiritual principles that we talk about on this podcast, or the conscious principles, to where you get to work with your clients or market to your clients in a way that actually feels really good. The greatest compliment and greatest excitement I ever get, I love it when my clients make a lot of money. I really do. But when they come to me and they say, I actually am having fun with this, that's what I get super excited about. So I would love to have you just take a look at what's there. It's consciousmarketer.com/accelerator. We made a weird little video for you and and wrote some stuff. We wrote some things. You can see if you resonate with our offer and our message. And if you don't, then you can send me a message and be like, you didn't do a good job, Kylie.
No, they wouldn't do that. Yeah. So consciousmarketer.com/accelerator. And that's our kind of like our anchor program where you get to work with us. And we love working with our community. That group is kind of our on-ramp to even deeper experiences. There are other things beyond that too. So we'd love to have you inside there. And if you're looking for the show notes for this, or looking for all the lists you can get those at consciousmarketer.com/podcast. And if you're listening to this on iTunes or Spotify, you can give us a like there or a review. We greatly appreciate it because we're not running ads on here. So thanks everybody for being with us on this podcast. It's been a pleasure. I hope you've got some value out of it. Thanks for all your insights, Kylie. Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for just doing this with me and helping more people. It's been a cool journey.
Yep. And look forward to having everybody on the next episode. Bye for now.